Thank you very much for joining us today, where we're going to go through what we learned at QlikWorld 2023, which luckily for us was held in Las Vegas in the States. So yeah, all very enjoyable as well as informative. So just for a bit of housekeeping, the session is being recorded and will be released on our YouTube channel over the next few days. Please ask questions. So I've put that by the meeting chat. That's a typo on my part because I changed that recently. Can you please use the Q&A function to ask questions? And if they're appropriate for us to butt in at that point, then we will. Just asking my colleagues if they can carry on letting people in as well. So yes, without further ado, there's one or two of you on the call that are not aware of Ometis, so I just wanted to put a quick slide up that talks a little bit about us to understand who we are. So we are largest dedicated Qlik consultancy in the UK. We provide advice, consultation, training, support across the whole of the Qlik platform. So that includes the Qlik data integration, all the way through to data analytics and prescriptive analytics. So yeah, we are an elite solution provider, which is the highest level that you can have. And on the call today, we've got Chris, who many of you will know, who is a partner ambassador for Qlik. So we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. And of course, as a Qlik Elite partner, we have to have all of the various specialisms that they ask us to cover. We have just over 175. I think it might be 180 by now. Actually, the guys have been pretty busy over the last few weeks. Customers across a whole wide range of industries. So speaking today, we've got Andy Patrick, our MD. Many of you will know, in fact, many of you will know all of the people here, I guess. So Alex Walker looks after our support team as well as all of our technical side. And Chris Lofthouse, who say most of you will know, I would imagine, as his previous role within services, but he's now joined the sales, well, now leading the sales team. And David Tomlins, who's head of solution architecture and manages the consulting team, and myself, head of origination. Happy for anybody to tell me what that means, but what it does mean is you've got me today waffling on for a bit. So the topics, we chose 5 topics for this that we wanted to just use as a basis. Now, what I want to say at the start of this is our views of what we saw. So this is not, I'm not going to get you to sign a legal disclaimer or anything like that, but these are our thoughts on what we came across at QlikWorld. And we've covered, say, several of the main topics there. The top right one, data democratization, of course, that one is the end game for that all the others lead up to, really. So data democratization, what I mean briefly about that before we go to it, is making sure that as many people as possible have got the right data at the right time. And of course, that begins with, have they got is the right data available to start with? So everything that we're going to talk to you today leads up to that data democratization piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the guys to talk about, just briefly, their thoughts on each of these subjects, what they saw at the show. And our aim here really is for you guys to, get an enthusiasm for some of these topics so that you follow up with us with a call where we can go into these in more detail. So we will go into some detail today, but not mainly this is high level. So if I start with Qlik Cloud data integration, which is clearly one of a big piece of Qlik's thoughts going forward. Chris, could you start us off on that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So Qlik's CEO, Mike Capone, in his keynote speech, made it perfectly clear that Qlik's direction and their mission is to offer the best-in-class end-to-end data platform. And that's been evident in its merger and acquisition activities. So having recently acquired Data Podium, Blender.io, Attunity, and soon to be Talend as well. The last one is Qlik's commitment to double down on data integration, specifically leveraging its data profiling, its governance and integrity capabilities as well, which we should see over a shortened period of time compared to Attunity being integrated into the Qlik platform, specifically into the cloud platform as well. In addition, back in March, Qlik introduced the Connector Factory to accelerate the delivery of SaaS connectors as well. So what that means behind the scenes is Qlik have got a new dedicated R&D team working towards adding 100 new connectors for QCDI, so Qlik Cloud Data Integration in 2023. 30 of those should land relatively soon with connectors for NetSuite, Workday, SAP SuccessFactors, and HubSpot being amongst those. Qlik are also keen to work with us and customers to recommend what those connectors should be that get introduced later down the line. So we spoke to Ola, who heads up that Connector Factory, and she's more than happy to take feedback from customers of what sources are you working with. So we've got good relationships with Qlik there. Now, of course, James Fisher also reassured us on the data and analytics side that Qlik are still equally as committed to the data analytics capabilities, and in particular that was evident with the commitment to fit and finish. So what we mean there is, while Qlik will still absolutely see new innovations on the Qlik Sense Cloud and on the client managed versions as well, they won't just be throwing them out into the wild and just letting them kind of gather dust. They're going to be continually following up with refinements to make them truly useful and valuable to customers as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, you touched on a piece there, which was one of my big takeaways. We had an awful lot of access to people within Qlik, which was really encouraging to me, and I think it shows that you as partner ambassador, you clearly have some influence into the direction of where the software's going, but also Alex and David. You're on the I can't remember what the term is now, Alex, where you're sort of influencing the product. What's the
so we have regular catch-ups with the Qlik R&D team, feeding back from our our customers, positives and any constructive criticisms, and that feeds directly into what they're working on at the moment.
And I think if people want to have an influence in where the product's going, they can get in touch, because we do have a say into it with the guys at Qlik. So please do that. And also, Andy is now on the what do you call that, Andy? The global partner.
He's a Pac-Man.
He's a Pac-Man.
It's the Partner Advisory Council. So in general, as a partner, we've got great relationships with Qlik. Mine is more from a kind of strategical and commercial side, so I'm not going to influence the technical decisions that they make, but I can certainly give feedback from our customers as to what licensing model works well, what works good for us as a partner with Qlik as well. So we have these relationships that we can carry on building. And what I would advocate for the audience that we've got on today is that if they want to get involved, the whole ideation site that Qlik have come up with as well, Qlik have never been more open to feedback, to feed that into their kind of product strategy going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, David, when we went out for one of the dinners, I know you were having a good chat with a couple of the Qlik guys who came with us.
Yeah, so I spoke to the senior director who looks after telemetry. So he's looking at embedding analytics into the QMC, so you can see, particularly with capacity licensing, it becomes more important to see what you're using, but also how your end users are using their data. And he's invited me to get together with him and give feedback or our thoughts on what we think would be really useful in terms of visibility of usage of the product. So we're going to have a call with him in the next few weeks. So if anyone wants to influence or has some really great ideas about how they want to see the telemetry of their SaaS tenant, please get in touch, because we can definitely forward that on to the team that are building the capability.
Excellent. Okay. And did you have any comments on the specific QCDI front?
I think as it's very new, there's lots being built at the moment. So sort of they're building in sort of development processes, so DTAP and version control with GitHub, as well as enhancing sort of the monitoring and notification statuses around how your data pipelines are going. Building new APIs out, enhancing data lineage, as well as integrating sort of QCDI with automation, so you can start combining that automation function with how your data pipelines are working. As well as a big thing for me with some of the QDI projects that I've worked on, is that they're starting to look at incremental support for custom SQL. So previously that had to be full loads. They're looking at how they can enhance it with incremental loading when you're building out your own custom SQL. So that was really positive for me.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So if we move on to Talend. So Talend, well, sorry, I'm going to steal your thunder. Alex, would you like us to talk through Talend before I rattle on?
That's fine. Yeah. So Qlik announced their intention to acquire Talend back in January, actually. So I think it's taken a little longer than they would like, but hopefully it'll all be closed in the next few weeks. But for those of you not aware, Talend is a kind of a data integration, transformation, quality management solution. It has kind of about 5 or 6 products across that offering. So bringing that into Qlik's, Qlik's platform, we'll add on some really useful capabilities across the board. The one I was most excited about, I always sign up to the hands-on workshops at QlikWorld. I just want to get into the product and get playing, especially any of the new stuff. So I signed up for a couple of the Talend workshops, and the one that I was particularly impressed with was the Stitch Data. So Stitch Data is a company actually that Talend acquired a few years ago, and it's a SaaS data integration offering. So that allows you to connect to lots of different SaaS platforms and pull that through and put it into a data warehouse. So I did the workshop, and then that evening, because I'm that kind of geek, went and looked at what systems we use internally at Ometis. Our timesheeting system was supported, our task management system was supported, and our forecasting system was supported. So I grabbed all 3 of those, hooked it up with an API, pushed all that data into Snowflake, and I had a database with our data in it. And it took me about half an hour to do all 3 systems. Obviously, there's more to be done, and then you have to integrate that data and everything. But I was like, knowing how hard it was to connect to those APIs and deal with pagination and authentication flows and all that kind of stuff, I really think that's going to be a good addition to the Qlik platform. I assume it's going to be built in some way in QCDI, but even without that, what I've done since then is, as Qlik have announced, that you can kind of process third-party data in the cloud transformation functionality. So I've been able to transform that data that I landed using Stitch through in Snowflake, through the cloud data integration, and into QlikSense dashboards, just as a proof of concept at this stage. But that's the sort of the dream of the future for that. The other aspects of Talend, there's a studio component, which is a really powerful kind of desktop, but you can also publish to the server transformation tool. And then, like I mentioned as well, they do this kind of data quality, so you can do some data cleansing rules and monitor the quality of things, as well as data management and kind of metadata as well. So I think those are really exciting to see how they build them into particularly the SaaS platform. I'm assuming will be their main focus, but some of that will come to on-prem as well, I'm sure.
Yes, very good, very good.
I was just going to jump in there as well and sort of bolt from what Alex was saying around the Talend acquisition, is that Qlik have been acquisitive in recent years. We've seen it with, as Chris has already mentioned, Podium and Attunity and Blender. Imprinting that they bought, Idevio Maps, the list, it goes on. What we have seen is every one of those acquisitions has either been integrated or reimagined in the SaaS platform. So, I feel, and again, this is our opinion, that Talend acquisition, we are going to see the bolstering of that overall platform, and it is going to reside in that single platform interface on SaaS, where you can do everything that you need to do from raw data through to analytics and predictive, all in one single skill set. So that's where I'm excited about the Talend acquisition.
That's good. That's good. And again, the Talend guys have reached out to us there already, haven't they? Even pre-acquisition, they're keen to talk to us about how it.
Well, I think I saw Gordon just join the call as well. So I think Gordon's on at the moment. So hi there, Gordon. Yeah.
Was the chat with his hand up, John?
I don't know. That might be a question.
Are you looking? Yeah, say, John, you have a particular question? If you could put it into the Q&A, and we'll monitor that, John, and then if it's appropriate, we'll cover it, at the time, or we'll come back to it afterwards. So yeah, I mean, David, you had a look at the fair bit of the Talend stuff as well, didn't you? What did you find exciting about it?
So one of their products is called Talend. No, I'll talk about something else. One of their products is called Talend Data Inventory, which sort of gives them a holistic view of all your data. And what it does is it gives you a trust score. And that's something that you can sort of monitor over time, improve on, and just be aware of. So it lets you assess how valid your data is, whether there's any issues with it, how often it's used, how many other tables connect to it, how popular it is, how many data sets are certified, how discoverable it is. Has everyone put tags on the data? Have everyone put descriptions on the data? And how complete it is. And that gives you sort of an overall trust score. And then that's something you monitor and work on to improve. And it gives you a great power to sort of investigate data quality issues and sort of resolve those quickly. That's the whole idea of it. And then the other part of it that's really interesting is sort of API generation. So sort of to allow for a data fabric and access to data where it's needed, you can create then APIs and sort of integrate with other apps. So if you need customer data in a particular web app, you can sort of generate an API and sort of integrate that data across your business. So they were the two bits that were really interesting to me.
Okay. John's question was, what is our position on the Talend MDM? I have to confess, that's over my head. Alex.
So I think he's referring to that could either be master data management, or I think Talend talk about a thing called modern data management or something along those lines. So again, we know there's not a lot of detail coming out. Obviously, under these acquisition things, they're not allowed to talk to each other too much about specifics, and we certainly haven't been shared anything on that at the moment. But yeah, so we expect some of that, the data inventory that David was talking about there, to be built into some of into Qlik's offerings and to provide that same functionality. Whether it will have a different interface, or they'll reimagine that, or re-implement that, or whether it will just be, a Qlik brand on top of, next to the Talend logo at the top. We'll have to wait and see exactly how that works out. But certainly those capabilities around data management that Talend, has quite a few offerings around. We'll expect to see them integrated.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and just to add to that as well, is the existing products will still be there for the foreseeable future. Qlik aren't going to pull the rug on any of those, not in the short to medium term. No,
they're very complementary, aren't they? The Talend products.
Yeah, we can reach out to you after this, John, as well, and just go through that in a bit more detail rather than cover it off now. But yeah, thank you for that. So where are we going now? Capacity licensing. This is probably one for you, Andy, and is going to be a big change.
Yeah, and an important change, I think, as well. So I see Qlik as being unique in the marketplace here with what they're suggesting. So we've all been used to the traditional per user license, certainly when it was on premise. Now we've moved to this kind of SaaS environment. We still support people on premise, client managed and so on, so that's not going away, but there is a general kind of move to cloud adoption, and we all saw that accelerated through the pandemic. Qlik are no different, and they saw that change happen, and they are bringing out options on capacity licensing. And the metrics behind that are, for the data integration side, it's about the amount of data that you will move. So sort of, the value is on that data there. But I think on the analytics side, and this is where it's going to be more important for probably a load of people on the call and a lot of our customers, the metric there is really on the amount of data that is analysed. So Qlik went to various research organizations, got feedback again from customers and prospects and partners across the globe. And what they saw was people putting a value on the amount of data that they were using. And there's a bit more of a linear path between the amount of data and the amount of value that you get out of it. I think a lot of this lends itself towards the democratization conversation that we'll be having in a second, as well as, they don't want to limit the number of people making decisions on that data. They don't want to limit the number of users. They don't want to be in a situation where they say, no, you can't have access to this data because we don't have enough end user licenses. So what we will see in the capacity licensing, and this is open for change, and we've got to see different, variations of this going through. But what we will see is the ability to have an unlimited number of users accessing the data, which is ideal for many organizations. You're getting that information out to the people that need to make those informed decisions, and the economics of that and the commercial elements will be based upon how much data is analyzed. So hopefully people will understand and see a linear path between the two, and pay on that basis. I think the important thing to mention as well is where I see Qlik as being different is capacity does not equal consumption. This is not a metered approach whereby it looks at exactly how much data has been analysed in the month and you retrospectively pay for all of that data. What this is a predictable budget setting capacity model that allows you to say, we are going to have 200 gig of data analysed per month, or whatever that number is, and you will be paying for that. And you give yourself enough headroom and enough buffer so that you can bring additional data in, but you've got that predictability behind what your annual fees will be based upon your data growth, and not around the people that are going to be using it. So I see capacity licensing as a really important addition to Qlik's commercial model going forward, and obviously we'll have more webinars and sessions and education sessions for our customers and prospects as we get that detail coming through as well.
Sorry, I just realised we were all looking at a very static slide rather than your voice.
One thing I'd also say about capacity licensing is it actually drives people to develop their environment in a best practice way. So it kind of forces you to only bring in fields that you need, not doing full loads, doing incremental loads, and kind of make the most of and operate in a best practice sort of way to get your load times down, and only sort of store the data that you actually need. So there's an amount of it will drive that behavior within your tenant.
Yeah, and just to add to this as well, so it will be data analysed on the QDA side, but it'll also be on full user basis as well. In addition to that, and it will be opt-in. So we're not forcing anyone to move across. If you want to carry on using the user-based model, you can absolutely continue to do that, at least for now. But it will be an opt-in should that be beneficial to you, based on the number of users you've got versus the amount of data you're analysing. So don't worry about that. And there will be full telemetry, as David mentioned towards the start of the webinar, to be able to monitor that going forward and to make sure that you're alerted as early as possible when you're reaching 80, 85, 90% of your capacity, budgeted capacity amount as well.
Yeah, the final couple of points on that from me as well is that, we've talked there about the data analytics side. Just on the data integration side, with the data moved, obviously it's on that data move, so Qlik are removing that kind of dependency on how many sources and how many targets or how many cores that does become complex. So whilst we can talk about this, the whole kind of reasoning behind it is to simplify the licensing model. We have to, as a partner, make sure that we're feeding back. If it's not simple, we'll tell Qlik about it. If you've got any fears as a prospect or a customer about, you know, the capacity licensing, do let us know and we'll pass that information back onto Qlik. But the whole premise is to make things a little bit easier for the end users to understand what they're paying for.
Okay, all right, thanks, guys. So next on the list was one that I was very interested in, which was the data democratization. I have to say, leading that was our own guest, Dan Williams from Pizza Express, who did a speaking session at the show, talking about how they have managed to roll out QlikSense applications out to all of their 440, I think it is, restaurant managers now. And we've got a video that we'll be releasing, I think it's later this week, where they talk about that and they interview some of the restaurant managers and who wax lyrical about the, you know, how they now couldn't work without it. So that was a very interesting element of it for me. And I think, Andy, you and I sat in on one, didn't we, where they were talking, was it Deloitte, I think?
Yeah, there were a couple of sessions that I found interesting on that topic, on the democratization, because I think you know, we've touched on the Qlik platform and how it can deal with sort of data integration, ingestion from that raw data. Alex already mentioned stewardship, observability, inventory, cataloging, analytics, anything to do with data now, the Qlik platform can do. So, you know, there's a great quote that I'll come on to in a second from one of our other customers that, you know, he's never been more sure that Qlik was the right investment based upon going to QlikWorld and seeing what was available, which I think is fantastic. But from all of those things that we do, what becomes important and where you get the most value is by democratizing that data. If you do all of those good things and people can't get access to the data, then they can't make the decisions and you've done all of that hard work for nothing. So I think it's really important to take your end users on that journey. I think the one session that you're talking about there, Neil, was from a partner, yeah, certainly Deloitte, but there was a partner in the Netherlands called Emergo that talked about storytelling within your data. And this was a session that, you know, I think we've got the slides and I'll happily send it out to anybody that's interested. But it really talks about, you know, how you can engage your end users to make sure that they are telling the right story through the data, or they can understand the story through the data, depending on if they are the creators of that dashboard or the consumers of that dashboard. And there's tips and tricks and hints. And I know it's something that David is championing internally from a best practices point of view, with, you know, regards to best practice on visualizations and colors and use of screen and so on. So I think David could talk more about that. The Deloitte session that you talked about was about the gamification of the end users of the dashboard as well. So in order to find out how engaged their end users were, Deloitte put together kind of surveys and questions and feedback, but within a QlikSense dashboard. And it asked questions like, do you understand your own data? Not in those ways, but you know, it wanted to see whether end users could interpret the dashboard that was put in front of them. And obviously, if they can't, then there's a breakdown in that process, because ultimately you want end users to be able to understand the data to make informed decisions and get better outcomes off the back of that data. So gamifying it and making sure that people could interact with the dashboard, see if they knew how to get the information that they required out of that front end dashboard, was a really interesting concept. And it's something that, you know, I'd like to champion internally. You know, can we do any of that for our customers if it's the right thing to do? But to understand, we've got 50 people using Qlik, but are they really engaged? Are they really making the most out of the data that sits within their QlikSense dashboards, or are they just going to it because they're told that's the reporting tool of choice? So I think it's all about that end user engagement on that democratization piece.
Yeah, and Dan Williams covered a bit of that as well, didn't he, in the Pizza Express story, that, you know, the time that he had, where they've got apps that were showing sort of percentage of use and how many people were in it every day and how many people were in it every week. And yeah, it was amazing actually how high some of those figures were. I think we've got them to share at some stage. Well, I better leave it till after we've released the video. But we can certainly show some of that.
And that telemetry information that David's already mentioned as well is really going to feed into that. Who's using what sheets, who uses alerts within Qlik, who uses the note sections. Understanding more about your user base makes you more productive in giving people what they actually need. Not everybody needs to use alerts within Qlik SaaS for what their business. But if people can make good use of it, then do more of it if that's going to be informative. So I think that whole kind of cycle of understanding what people are doing is really going to help out as well.
Yeah, great. Anybody else want to just jump in on that one? No.
I suppose the only other things to mention there is from a democratization point of view is that Chris touched on it before, and I'd probably sort of ask him to sort of lean into it a bit more. That fit and functional and fit for purpose and sort of rounding off the kind of visualizations. There are some specifics that we got out of QlikWorld that we'll see coming down the line there, and I think that is things like more granular control on pivot tables and tables. I'm not going to go into technical detail, but the guys on the call will maybe sort of bolster that conversation there as to what we saw from a roadmap perspective on the visualizations piece.
Yeah, so I think the one there that I know it's in the May technical preview for the on-prem release, the client managed release, but that's the table explorer. So that's, I mean, how many of us on the call have built a table with loads of conditional show columns in and things like that, and data islands to control what shows and what doesn't, to give people that kind of more interactive self-service than having to go and build their own table or usable for analyzer users and things like that. So that functionality is coming. It's in the technical preview at the moment for the on-prem. It'll be coming to SaaS, we believe, in the next couple of weeks. And so I think that's just showing that they're focusing on giving value to the end user, giving them that interactivity, seeing the things where people are building it multiple times over and reinventing the wheel each time potentially, and giving them a tool to do that. So that's quite an exciting one on that front, and definitely kind of helps spread that ability to build your own analytics, and I think that'll be a bit of a theme.
Yeah, and they're also sort of increasing customization. So chart and sheet backgrounds, you can now choose different colors or images, customized styling in terms of fonts, and bits and pieces like that, as well as new straight tables and pivot tables. But while they kind of give everyone more control, there's always got to be a level of wariness, because you don't want, they implemented a lot of these rules initially to enforce best practice, but now as they give the control back to the developer, there just needs to be some sort of regulation in terms of how you then start building charts, and clear rules in how you design them now that everyone's given more control back.
Yeah, no, I think that joins in with coming back to the whole data literacy piece as well, isn't it? You can build a really complex dashboard. If people don't have the capacity to understand it, then I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, but it's certainly not adding as much value as it could. And in fact, we'll be doing some blogs over the coming weeks going back around that data literacy piece and areas that people can help their colleagues gain more data literacy. So we can come to that. Chris, were you about to jump in as well?
Well, I was going to address this at the end actually, but going back to what I mentioned at the start around the commitment to the fit and finish, Ian Crosland, I believe his title is something along the lines of Vice President of R&D or product management. He acknowledged in one of the sessions that there are still things you can do in QlikView 7 that you still can't do in QlikSense today. Qlik aren't shying away from that. They've acknowledged it. Some of these are relatively small and simple things, but Qlik just haven't prioritized them in previous years. That is going to change. So we're going to see things like the horizontal filter pane, just something that you used to have at the top of your QlikView dashboards. That's just recently been introduced. There's also a gridless container where you can overlap charts to create business applications like people used to do with Qlik as well. So not necessarily just data visualizations, but actually creating apps that people can use in other ways. not just visualization. So these things are coming. The control, as David said, the customization features are going to be coming into the interface, so you don't have to do any kind of scripting of any kind. So you don't have to dip into Qlik themes necessarily. These are things that we've all been wanting, all been craving over the years, and Qlik are committed to delivering that, which is, you know, one of the more positive things I saw going to QlikWorld this year.
Okay, moving on to one of the other topics then. Another positive thing, or it got a bit of a whoop in the room when it was shown on the big screen by Josh Good, was the whole integration of ChatGPT and, you know, just AI in general. Anyway, I mean, Chris, can I stick with you on that then? Can you talk us through what you liked about that?
I'm actually going to take a step back and talk about what's in the Qlik platform at the moment related to kind of ChatGPT, and that's Qlik's Insight Advisor. So you can already do natural language. Qlik can already do natural language processing and generation. So you can absolutely ask questions of your data, either using your microphone or typing the questions in, or just clicking on the fields or values that you're interested in. Qlik have been working on that for 3 or 4 years now. So this isn't new. It's just a new trend that we're all kind of seeing, and it just appears on your LinkedIn feed every 3 or 4 posts. And Qlik did do a really good presentation, a really good demo of that. And rather than, you know, the main concerns, particularly when you're looking at your data, your business data, is you don't want this going out and feeding other companies information around your secrets, around, you know, your sensitive information. And Qlik have acknowledged that. So they're not looking at, you know, processing your data. Instead, they're looking at complementing humans and assisting humans to get the most out of their development cycles around creating the dashboard. So what Qlik actually showed was opening up the expression editor, typing in a comment saying, show me the number of, what's the total count of orders, and it will write the expression automatically beneath that, which is, you know, positive in 2 ways. One is you don't have to know Qlik syntax to write an expression, and you can do set analysis as well. But 2, you're also doing code commenting at the same time. So for developers, it's actually a win-win. You're typing what you're expecting, and then it writes that expression for you as well. So just using natural language, just typing that in, Qlik will process it and create the syntax required, again, without having to send any data across to external sources. Qlik's Insight Advisor, again, just kind of addressing that as well. So, you know, you can, I said it before, you can do natural language to generate your visualizations. It's also, I think within the last kind of 6 months or so, introduced the natural language generation. So it lowers the barrier to data, you know, to getting insights, and bridges the gap of data literacy as well. So that's getting more useful. More recently, they added the custom object, so you can have those natural language generated actually on the dashboard as well. So these are things that Qlik are already working on. The benefit is that, you know, it's in the product today. It's just about utilizing that and seeing the potential and the use cases for that within your organizations. Where I see it kind of going in the short, medium term, you know, again, just kind of to push what I've already said, is it's going to be assisting humans. So it's kind of more augmented intelligence, but you know, still utilizing AI to, you know, establish those data pipelines, to validate that those pipelines are set up with best practice, ensuring that policies have been applied, and if they haven't, highlighting those and notifying you in real time that you haven't applied, you know, obfuscation on a particular sensitive field that has PII data in there, to make sure that, you know, that's not getting out into the ether, into your user base. But then also complementing app developers on the data analytics side as well, writing those set expressions, help building out the data models and making recommendations to further enable self-service as well. That was a very waffly answer. Hopefully that was useful.
I think you covered most of it there, Chris. But I guess you're right. It's very, very trendy in LinkedIn, and I think what's coming out of the whole kind of trend, you know, ChatGPT and the AI kind of drive at the moment is that, you know, that augmentation, like you mentioned, And that seems to be, you know, these kind of jobs of, you know, prompt engineers. How do you write the right prompt to give you the right thing back? And maybe part of the, you know, the developer, Qlik developer will become about writing the right thing to then create the code, like you mentioned there, like almost write your comment first and then it will generate the code. But very much that it's a start, at least at the moment, it's a starting point. It's a prototype it'll build for you. But again, I remember when in my early days as a Qlik developer, you know, forgetting how to write the right syntax for a loop, you know, and just pick out the variables from the table or an inline load or whatever, and just being able to write out what you want, and it would just give you that structure which you can then customize. And I think that's where that kind of efficiency, that magnifier, that kind of, you know, not having to kind of write those things from scratch every time, that seems to be the trend outside of Qlik in terms of, you know, developing in whatever language you're doing and where developers are doing that. And then I love the ideas you mentioned there about, you know, checking that the quality's right. I like the idea of pointing out some code and saying, what's wrong with this? Why is it not working? You know, and it would go, well, it's because you named your variable different, or, you know, you forgot to reinitialize it, or, you know, whatever it is, or you didn't subtract one off the row count, or, you know, whatever it is. And that's what, you know, those kind of things are going to help develop. You know, I tend to see things from a developer perspective, and that's really going to help that efficiency in delivering more, you know, more value and getting places quicker. So I don't think it's going to replace us anytime soon, but I also quite like the idea of just being able to, you know, point it at a database and say, get me the sales and invoice, you know, the sales invoice data linked to customers, and it goes and looks at the table names, the field names, and figures that out for you. Because that's, you know, we spend a fair bit of time kind of going and poking around in these systems, and probably some of that could be automated by something clever like an AI system. So lots and lots of potential there, but again, not getting rid of, you know, those kind of developers, consultants, business analysts, and, you know, end users, of course, but really, you know, complementing what they do and enhancing what they do.
Yeah, and just adding to that as well, it's all about integrating what you're adding there. So, you know, Qlik release business glossaries. It'd be great if you could ask Qlik to build you an app based on those business glossaries around the terms and definitions, populate the descriptions in your master items, bring the master items from other applications, and really integrate the entire platform and what you've already built, and leverage that and bring it into a new app fit for a new purpose, a new question, a new use case that you're trying to build. So it's leveraging what you've already done, as opposed to have to sometimes recreate things for another department, but make the slight tweaks here and there. So I think if Qlik can really nail that, I think that will set us apart going forwards big time.
The one thing I'd probably mention on that is sort of just in general is just rate of innovation. So we're talking about futures here a lot of the time, and some of the things that we see at QlikWorld are already released in, you know, the SaaS editions now. So like the co-authoring kind of stuff that, you know, that we've seen coming down the line as well. But we hadn't ought to lose sight of what's already available within Qlik as well. You know, Chris has mentioned it from the Insight Advisor, but from a kind of, you know, AI or machine learning perspective, you know, that one of the acquisitions that they did was Big Squid, and you've got AutoML sat in there in your SaaS tenant for our SaaS users at the moment, with, you know, 2 deployed models that you can use as part of your subscription. And that again is all about democratizing that data as well, so that we're not having to necessarily have a data scientist within the business in order to be able to do some predictive modeling on certain classifications of our data. So, you know, we're seeing when Qlik do an acquisition, when they're talking about new functionality, that innovation hitting the platform in a relatively short space of time, making it available for end users to start using and getting value out of it in a very short space of time.
Okay. We just had another question there about capacity licensing. Okay, yeah, I think what we'll do there, we'll come back to you with a more detailed description of that capacity licensing and whether it fits in with data integration or analytics. At the moment, I think that's quite a big subject in its own right. So if okay with you, Steve, we'll come back on that one.
Well, I'll cover it quickly in the sense, you know, just to make sure that we've got an answer. So yeah, it covers both. So there is a capacity license model for data integration, which is based upon the amount of data that you move. So you can move a shed load of data free of charge as a one-off, and then the amount of data that you move on a monthly basis is going to be reflective of the charge that you will get. So if you're moving a terabyte of data each month, we will charge someone on a capacity license for that terabyte of data that they move each month. That's on the data integration side. On the data analytics side, there's a separate price list. We haven't yet got visibility of that price list as well. So we've got an indication that we were given at a sales kickoff, but I can't give any more details on that. What we do know, it's going to be about the amount of data that is analyzed. And this is where the telemetry dashboard that David's talked about is also going to come in. We're going to be able to measure the size of your data, the QVD files and the data that is provided into your applications. It's going to be based upon that amount of data. And if that, as an average over the month, is 50 gig, then you will be charged the capacity license of 50 gig. There's going to be more details needed than that, but there are absolutely two different models: data move for data integration, data analyzed for the analytics piece. And as we get more of that information, we will absolutely provide that in a blog, in another web session, in one-to-one meetings with our customers and our internal staff as well. So hopefully that answers a little bit of it.
And just to add to that, the model is designed so you always have headroom. So don't think that, all right, I'm doing 50 gigabytes, so I need 50 gigabytes of data analyzed. No, you would buy a block of, say, 75. Depends on what the size of those blocks are going to be when Qlik finalize that. But it's the same with data movement as well. You might buy a terabyte, 2 terabytes of data moved per month, but you might only be moving half of that. But it gives you the headroom to be able to predict and budget going forwards as well. It's supposed to have the future growth for the next 12 months kind of baked into that pricing model.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of time. We've got sort of 10-12 minutes left. I just wonder what you thought your favourite bits were as you were as top left to me, Andy.
Oh, right, me diving. Yeah, there were loads of things, but I think probably just touching on one or two maybe. The appreciation sessions that Qlik give as part of this conference. So we haven't done a conference in person for 4 years. Was it 2019 was the last one that we were in Dallas? And we have internal staff that joke about it being a bit of a party or a holiday and so on, and we enjoy our time out there. There's no doubt about that. It is sort of work hard and play hard mentality, but actually seeing people face to face, networking, doing the kind of appreciation sessions for the partner advisory council that we have, for the luminaries that our customers are, for the ambassadors that we've got, spending time with the R&D guys with Qlik. And we can drop names, but it's not important. It's about actually getting noticed, having Qlik listen to us as a partner. You mentioned that we're one of the elite partners in the UK, and really feeling that we can change Qlik's mind on certain things with enough weight of customer opinion and our feedback to them on certain things. The guys can attest to certain things happening on early adoption programs that we've been part of, giving feedback and actually seeing those changes. I think one of them was an application automation that Pizza Express had requested on Zenput, was it, or one of their kind of ticketing systems. You go into the connectors now on application automation. That is a standard connector that everybody else in the community can now use, because that has been driven. So my one takeaway and my favorite bit is how involved Qlik want us to be as a partner, and how involved they want the community to be. And if we can be like that to our customers, that's exactly what I want to present us as Ometis. So we've got people asking a few questions on here now. I've had 1 or 2 emails already come in about, can I share the stories, information, PDF with them? Absolutely. Any questions that you ever have about Qlik, we welcome them. We're always available. We'll jump on sessions like this. We'll jump on one-to-ones. We want to be able to provide that kind of feedback mechanism back to Qlik. And I think, Qlik are really good at delivering that kind of environment to do so. So that's my favorite bit.
Sir, David? You're
on
mute.
mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think the last few years have been sort of establishing their SaaS tenant. I think that's now like fully established and working well. Now it's all about the ambition of where they can take it. So in terms of the investment they're in the visualization side. So they're now sort of, as Chris mentioned, bringing some of the functionality from QlikView that everyone's sort of missing. The enhancements to QCDI and how they view data pipelines going forwards, and the Talend acquisition, which is going to enhance that as a full end-to-end product. So what I guess ambition is probably the bit that I've been really impressed with, is where they want to take this next.
Yep. Okay, Alex.
Yeah, all of the above. Just pick something different, maybe some other favourite bits. It's really good to see. You know, we saw Ometis there, who's one of our partners as well on the expo, who've recently they've acquired the QlikSense Document Analyzer Pro, just announced yesterday. They were there with Rob Wunderlich, so kind of that didn't come as a big surprise. But yeah, just really good to see them also kind of acquiring and building their platform as a complementary offering that sits alongside Qlik around, you know, version control, source control, auditing, and quality and performance stuff there, as well as a good add-on. And then one really specific thing, you know, I again love the product demos and getting hands-on. They demonstrated the co-editing of script in an app. So until now, you've had to be the owner of an app to edit scripts, edit the data model. But they showed the functionality at QlikWorld and actually released it yesterday into Qlik SaaS, so that multiple people can. You're the first person to go in, locks the data load kind of editor once they start editing it, but then they can kind of check that change in, and someone else can edit it as well. It's all governed by permissions and everything like that. But that's a real game changer, because that's been a little bit of a sticking point in both on-prem and SaaS, to be honest, around that, again, data democratization, developer productivity, you know, kind of just being able to move fast and get the value out. So that excited me. But yeah, certainly the Talend acquisition, certainly that roadmap, certainly cloud data integration. There's a lot to be excited about for sure.
Yeah. All right, Chris, you've got a few minutes, but not too much.
I'll keep mine short and sweet. So
I'll jump in with you, Chris, because I think what I liked most, because I'll leave you to do a serious one. What I liked most was both you and I teaching Andy that you can win a hand of blackjack with an 8.
yeah. Well, you did that twice, which is rather impressive.
Anyway, sorry,
we won't talk about golf though, right? or hitting a ball past the women's tee. But anyway, yeah, so I think my favourite ones, not to repeat what I've done, but obviously the fit and finish and the session around the futures, the future roadmap with Ian Crosland, but also Andrew Cougar demoing the enterprise reporting that's coming to SaaS, so the advanced authoring capabilities with the Excel plugin. That was really useful. And really good to see, just because we've got a few customers that are still stuck on client managed using imprinting, and they're just waiting for that plugin to come on board. But also to see that Qlik have really thought about how to get people migrated across from client managed from imprinting to SaaS as well. So there will be an assessment app coming along, which will be driven through partners, which is obviously another positive thing from that. Qlik have acknowledged that, so it won't be a publicly available application, this assessment one. It will be driven through partners, and having that kind of clear direction of what can we migrate today versus what, you know, what future capabilities do we need to wait for in order to migrate those. But then lastly is obviously being able to have customers at the event. It's one of the first ones we've had where customers have actually come with us and also validated why we are a dedicated Qlik partner, which is always really positive to see their enthusiasm with Qlik, and help, you know, see those ideas churn around future use cases. Dan in particular is one of Pizza Express is one of my accounts, and already, you know, we're talking around that gamification that Andy mentioned. We're looking at other areas of the platform, capacity licensing, and all those kind of lovely things, which is, yeah, it's just great to see that enthusiasm from them as well.
Yeah, you just stole most of my thunder there, so I'm just going to try and share my screen at the end. Yeah, I was going to say about similar sorts of things, and mainly about the the ability to take customers there. There were several customers there this time, which is different to some of the ones I've been on before. We took Dan and we took Nick from Ingersoll Rand, and both of them really enjoyed it. I know they did. So if there are people out there who want to do things towards becoming Qlik luminary, and then please do get in touch, and we'll do what we can to help you. It does involve using up a bit of your time, I'm afraid, but yeah, it is well worth it, and that chance to be able to influence the product, I think, is key. So I'll just wrap up by saying, thanks very much for your time. Please do stay in touch, in particular through our LinkedIn page. Please follow us on there, follow us on YouTube. Our website is, we're always looking to do new things through it, so please do get in touch. We've got a couple of upcoming events. If any of you are in Manchester for DTX, which is a 2-day event, we're there middle of this month, and then our next webinar will be on Qlik Cloud data integration, so one of the topics we talked about today. So do please keep an eye out for that one. Invites will go out shortly. And coming up soon, I know many of you on the call have been to our previous QlikWorld tours that we held at the Belfry. Qlik have asked us to do sponsor one of the part of the QlikWorld tour in London as well this year. So we're going to be doing the QDI element of that. And we will be doing Birmingham again in June. Venue yet to be announced. We're trying to get it a bit closer to a railway station, much though the Belfry is loved, it is a bit more hard to get to. But yeah, please do stay in touch. Let us know what extra things you want us to talk to Qlik about getting in the product, and we'll do our best to get them in.